Hello, here with my longtime friend and colleague, Brian Crowley, and our guest today, Alexandria Ayala, CEO of the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County, with a rich and diverse background in the life of community activism and school board service here. We're going to talk about all of it. Welcome today.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. Come around and introduce me anywhere you want. That kind of introduction.
Maybe that's, since I'm retired from news full time, introducer.
Exactly.
Is that a job category?
Sure, yes, for you, yes.
Yeah, Brian's like anything to get you out of my hair. Take it away, my friend.
Well, first, welcome to Top of Mind, Florida.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching and or listening, and thank you for subscribing and commenting. We really appreciate it. And tell us about what you're doing these days.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you again. We
Good to
used
see
to be
you.
on here downstairs talking about some fun stuff. I am now so honored to serve as the CEO of the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County, which was a bit of a career shift for me. It happened unexpectedly, but I welcome it. And I think it's such an important issue right now. You know, we have, in our last annual count, we had about nearly 1,300 people who were reported as homeless in the county. And we worked together with our agency partners, the Palm Beach County government, and all organizations that want to help end this issue in our community. So it's important work, and I'm happy to be doing it.
What don't people understand about the homeless?
It's a great question. A couple of things that stood out to me was when I was on the school board, which I know we'll talk a little bit about later, it came to my attention that in 1 year we had a count of 6,000 children who were reported as homeless. And that could mean couch surfing in their cars, uncertain housing, going from friend to friend's homes, just not acceptable for a county like Palm Beach. So I think that realizing how many homeless children are part of the population is one thing that surprised me. And the second is that 70% of the people that are being counted homeless now, it's the first time. So this is clearly an impact of economic strain, of increased cost of housing, not enough supply, stagnant wages. It has to be economic at a certain point, right? These aren't individuals that are choosing this lifestyle. I think it's important that the community know it's your neighbors, it's the people who make our lives work every day for us. This is a common and prevalent issue. And I think changing the mindset of who we consider homeless when we have an image in our heads could it be you? Could it be one of us? We're closer to being homeless than to becoming billionaires, right? So I think that it's important for us to put it in the context of normalizing who the picture of homeless looks
the
like.
perception of the homeless, I think for a lot of people is they're drug addicts, they're alcoholics.
You nailed it.
You know, and obviously there's an element of truth to that. That's some segment of the homeless.
Sure.
And but does that perception probably isn't helpful in trying to deal with the issue, right?
It's not, because a lot of folks say we want to help those, the people that are drug addicts, that are on the streets, or that are choosing this lifestyle.
Severe mental health issues.
Mental health or substance abuse disorders, drugs, alcohol. But the majority of the emails I get and the outreach we get is help. I'm with my child as single mothers, with young children or school-age children. It's for young professionals. So it's not matching, it's not lining up. And I think changing that image in your head when you think who could be homeless to someone that it could be your cashier at the grocery store, it could be your garbage man, it could be your neighbor, it could be your child's caretaker, and we don't even know.
What I'm hearing is that people who were always 1 or 2 or 3 paychecks away from shelter and having a place to live to being homeless, and suddenly the 1 or 2 or 3 paychecks ran out. You can be that close on that dividing line.
That is where we're at.
And you talk about the number, you said how many? Or the official count?
The official count through Palm Beach County's point-in-time count was nearly 1,300 last year.
But that's the official count. I would
Yep.
imagine the number is substantially larger of people who may not ever show up on that count, but are living in their car or living 5 or 6 deep, as you said, couch surfing. Talk about that, because does the official number drastically uncount the number of people who are almost in that situation or never get counted in your tally, adults and children?
100%.
Talk about that.
That doesn't tell the full story, right? The point-in-time count depends on you being counted, which means you have to be found and visible to be counted and willing to interact to be counted. A couple of things have happened in the last couple of years. Number one, the passing of HB 1365, the camping law.
Talk about that for
Right.
people unfamiliar.
That is a piece of legislation that passed through Florida's legislature in 2024. and it became effective in July of 2024 or 25. It's one of those years, forgive my exact date. But what it essentially does is it empowers law enforcement to give basically infractions or misdemeanors, or, give people citations for being somewhere, for sleeping somewhere outside in the public. So you can't be loitering and there's a loophole in it. If you're in a car, they don't give you the infraction. So it's this very interesting, and I understand, with the comparisons of we don't want to be California, we don't want to be this, we don't want to be that. I understand the intent of the legislation. I don't want to attack intent, because I think that we need to have safe, vibrant communities, and that's important. But the unintended consequence of legislation like that has led to people being fearful, being in hiding, and not being able to get connected to the resources that get them out of the situation, right? So when we go out and do a count under things like the new law, the new anti-camping law, and under ICE operations, it has to be said, we're in Palm Beach County, we're in Florida, one of the biggest populations of immigrant communities in the country. How do we know that we're counting everybody when people are in fear and in hiding based on societal circumstances? So when we look at that number, and I look at the count in 2024 where the number increased by 30%, right? And then the next year we celebrate a decrease of 15%, something's not adding up there to me, right?
Sure. So if somebody that's homeless reaches out to the Homeless Coalition, what happens?
Good question. It depends. Every homeless story is case by case, and it depends on, are they an individual? Are they a veteran? Do they have a family? Are they a senior? So let's do some demographics, identify your circumstances so we can best understand how to help you. Then we bring in our agency partners, and those are great local organizations such as the Lord's Place, Vita Nova, Adopt a Family, Families First, all of our partners that provide the direct service to connect them with either shelter, with affordable, attainable housing, with employment resources, whatever it is they may need, right? So we do a full screening of what's your circumstance, what support do you need to get back on your feet. And then after we do those analysis, we're able to match them with that support, whether it's emergency rental assistance. Sometimes we're one rent away from being evicted, but here's a plan, we have a job, we're able to maintain this, so let's work through that. Sometimes we've been unhoused completely, because we always want to prevent homelessness at the core. If we can avoid the spiral from getting to the worst of the situation, the investment up front is a way better return on your investment than letting people get to the worst of the situation and being in terrible health, out on the street with risks, with safety risks, and especially if they have children. So we do our best to analyze the situation case by case and connect those individuals to our partners who provide that support, and get them housed, get them shelter, or get them back on their feet while they figure out how to get employment, how to get sustainable income, and how to be able to sustain themselves. And that's not simple, right? It takes a lot of people to figure out how to make this puzzle work and connect the pieces, because the system makes it difficult to navigate, right?
Yeah. I know that the answer, the reflexive answer is you never have enough resources, which is true, but give us a sense of the resource challenge. Even with that backdrop, what are the resource challenges you're facing in terms of money and support for all of these things to unravel some of these issues like affordability, those who need mental health services and the like? Where are you?
So under this administration, there's been a lot of changes at HUD and how we fund HUD. That has been a huge blow, because sustainable expected funding for housing projects or for Section 8, which is a way that a lot of folks are able to get into housing, the wait lists are unbelievable, and the housing supply is not getting any better with the lack of sustainable funding. And it's not just building housing, it's also grants that allow for that construction through private development as well. So that instability at the federal government funding levels has created chaos for nonprofits that depend on that funding. So that's at the top level there. Some of the state, policies, we work around them, we do what we have to do. But again, I think some unintended consequences of policies around containing this issue to focus on public spaces and safety and, economic development, it's been tough, because now we have a situation where if we can't identify the real number, the real size of the situation, how can you respond to it? And then locally, there's been we've had some pressures at the coalition, as well as some of my partners in this space, under the new expectations of DOGE and the CFO, and some claims that finances that have gone to support nonprofits have been waste, or that it's been, wasteful spending. So we had a report that I'm sure a lot of our listeners and our viewers saw around the hundreds of millions that it was reported by the CFO that Palm Beach County's overspent or wasted. And they specifically said homeless services and not certain nonprofit spending. So that has put nonprofits in a position where, regardless of politics or personalities, which isn't our concern is getting to be able to do these services. It's put us in a place where when you don't have public trust as a nonprofit, especially from donors and supporters, because of the claims that money is being wasted, or God forbid there's any fraud or abuse, you can't function properly. So I'm talking about 3 different layers there that I just laid out, where we're getting squeezed and questioned, and it's making jobs more difficult.
What do you answer? This was the criticism last year by some on the commission, that a majority of your budget went to employees, and your rejoinder to that, you are still funded now. There was a debate about funding you. What is your rejoinder to that criticism, that most of the money went to employees?
Well, it's interesting because that's a clarifying point that needs to be made. The contract that Palm Beach County requested with our organization, the Homeless Coalition, has been in place since 2019, and it goes for a decade through 2029. And the specific expenditure is for $150,000 to fund an executive director and an assistant. So the money is for staff. Here's why. The goal is to leverage that investment into the money we fundraise privately, publicly, through 2 events we're contractually expected to hold, the Mayor's Ball and the Lewis Luncheon. Then we leverage that $150,000 investment from the county into $2 million that go out into our community.
Before we move to your really interesting origin story and how you got where you are today, tell us, it'd be nice if we could wave a wand and fix a lot of this. We can't, but tell us, as we sit here today, where are we going? Where are we going next in this effort to fight homelessness in Palm Beach County? And what are your hopes or your pessimism about where we end up?
Well, my hopes, try to keep it optimistic today. We're thankful that we were able to move past the situation. We stay funded. We're moving ahead on our focus, which is fundraising dollars that support this effort in our community. I hope that we can come up with innovative solutions to this problem, right? And we do believe in housing first models, and I think that is important, making sure that we're advocating for the creation of affordable, attainable housing, for the creation of innovative projects like the idea thrown around about the La Quinta purchase. That was tiny homes. I want to see that conversation happen. Villages. Actually, at our upcoming event for the coalition on March 20th, we'll have a speaker named Alan Graham coming in from Austin, Texas, who created a whole community in Austin to combat homelessness by creating tiny homes in a village around housing for these individuals that helps them self-sustain. So I'm really excited to hear about how we can bring in new solutions to these questions, because it's not new to Palm Beach County. The economic pressures are only going to make the problem worse, and we have to start thinking outside the box. And what I'm looking forward to doing is putting aside issues of should we exist or not, or how do we exist or not, and what are we doing, and let's talk about how to actually find solutions within the charge that we've been given, not only by the county, but by our nonprofit's creation.
In our remaining time, you remember the first time we had her on the old broadcast To The Point back in WPTV days?
Love To The
We
Point.
said, my goodness, somebody young, involved, and you came to the Homeless Coalition after years of work in the community. Tell us a little bit of your origin story, taking us up through school board and how you've ended up here. I always found it fascinating as we talk about young people and getting more young people engaged in the politics and the community activism. I am. I am.
No.
I own it. No, but
You're both 2 of my heroes, so you're not old. You're vibrant and
you don't
in your
get out
peak.
much, but we'll take it. No.
I am, 2 in the know. But no, thank you so much for that. That means a lot coming from both of you. It's been an interesting road getting here. My first job at 21 years old was in the Florida Capitol. I was an aide for a Florida House of Representatives member. So it's kind of funny being full circle now that my husband is a state house representative, being back in the building. Funny,
When did you get that political bug? I mean, who's a
I
21-year-old
don't
who does
know.
that?
I know.
Were you
What's
8
wrong
or
with
10
me?
or 15 or what?
No, funny enough, I went to school to study nursing.
Okay.
And then completely pivoted. No one in my family is a politician. I mean, in Puerto Rico, politics is seen as divisive and not a thing you do. And so I don't know where it came from. I think it came from that same urge to want to help people the way I thought a nurse would. And my grandmother was a nurse, so I always admired her. And then I just had to find my own way to help people. And that came from engaging communities, especially Hispanic, Spanish-speaking communities, during the 2012 election. So I got really involved at UCF when I was a student there with registering voters, registering our students to vote when they were, engaging them, talking to them about the importance of it. And it hit me. And it's been like lightning struck ever since. And I just have kept, from the Florida House, I came to work at the county commission. Yeah. So I worked for a commissioner there for a couple of years. Then I got really crazy, decided to run for school board. Served a term on the school board.
At the tender age of?
26.
And that's when we caught up with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Decided to run at 25 when in fall of 2019, then we all know what happened in March of 2020. I turned 26 and the world turns upside down. So that was an interesting campaign, an interesting term. There was, school boards became it in the culture at the time during my term. From 2020 to 2024, I don't think it's ever been harder to be on a school board in the country with the back and forth and the creation of certain culture wars, let's call them, around different issues with education. So it was difficult, but I got some valuable leadership scars and some valuable lessons that I carry with me. And then I worked in the private sector for a few years, actually, for a land use development consulting firm, and ended up at the coalition, not planning it, but unexpectedly. And it's all the culmination of just the relationships you build, the mentors that help you along the way, and my love for this community and how I can continue giving back, however that looks. And, it's very interesting and important to me that young people are engaged in the political process. It's everything around us is dictated by that, and yet I see so many young people tuning out because it's so hard. It's ugly, it's divisive. The algorithm is telling you one thing, and then the news media is telling you another, and you don't know what to believe. And it's hard to see new generations, and especially younger than me, going into Gen Z and Alpha, see them struggle with not trusting institutions, not trusting government, not trusting systems. And I don't blame them, because when you see some of the things that come out, right, if we talk a little bit about topical news, I think people are having a whole shock about the Epstein files have opened up a whole thing about when we were growing up. In Palm Beach County was the epicenter of that in our high schools and in our middle schools, right? And you knew that stores you visited, like Limited 2 at the mall and Bath and Body Works, now were all involved. And as a millennial, you're like, was I shopping at a clothing store run by these people that were doing these atrocious things? Like, when you start seeing these cracks in the systems of who you thought you could trust, and it's coming out that some of this is true and it wasn't all conspiracy, how do you know what to believe? And I think that young people don't have reliable role models of political information that they trust to get that information from. So that is the question. To leaders in our political spaces, how do we reestablish that trust for young people? Because they'll just tune out. The voting numbers are abysmal for our generations, right? 18 to 40, it's like, good luck if you see us. We had a primary in Texas. They had a primary last night. Let's see what the numbers look like. Here next week, we have municipal elections, March 10th here in Palm Beach County. Let's see how many young people come out and vote. But I think it's about a new way to message to them, about proposing things that attract and are attractive to young families, to young people, to working professionals. And it's also about leaders that lead with integrity and are real and feel approachable and feel like they could be your friend, and then do what they say they're going to do and follow up on it. So
there's a governor's race coming up. You could run for governor if you want.
Oh, yeah. It is. I don't know
She
that.
didn't say no.
I didn't
She
say
didn't
no.
say no. She didn't say no.
I think I know too much about how the numbers would break down in our current state to not put myself in that position. But there is a governor's race coming up, and young people have a huge opportunity to be a swing voice in that.
So given all the challenges and the discontent and disillusionment, what do you say to young people when you speak to them about, for all of that, stay with it, get engaged?
I try to break it down to how does it affect you? So I start by just asking questions. Things that I know about that individual are important to them. Do you own a home, or is your child in public school, or is your child in early childhood, or when you drive to work, what's that look like? So I ask about local things, like what would it look like if we had a local government, city or county, that prioritized walkable cities or changed transit routes so that it felt more efficient for you and for your daily life? Or do you know that the school board can put these programs in place at your child's school and you can advocate for that? So have you ever thought about that? Or, and everybody likes the big stuff when it's a presidential race or a Senate race. Everyone's paying attention because federal elections take over the conversation. But what affects our life day to day? What's happening in Tallahassee today? They're on the floor all day today, passing laws and voting on legislation that could become the law of the state of Florida. At your city council meetings, they're passing ordinances and city, town and city charter changes that change how your downtown looks, or if you have opportunities to have a restaurant or a gas station at that corner, right? So this is important, and I try to put it in the context of everyone who's in public service, and it is public service, works for us. They're not just there by anointment. You have a
and all
right.
Politics is local, and we need to pay attention to it.
100%. So demand what you want out of it, and remember that you have a voice.
Sir, final thoughts, questions?
Well, do you see yourself running for office again?
I do.
Ah.
I do. Not for governor. Not this cycle.
Not this time.
No, I am, I'm excited about the opportunity for a governor's race. And
what would you run for?
That's a good question. I'm going to keep those cards to myself for now. But I do see myself hoping to earn the voters' trust in some other position in the future. I'm very passionate about this community. I'm passionate about, if I feel I know things or I've built enough experience to be good at doing something to help our community out, then I want to do that. And we'll see. It's all about timing. Politics is all about timing and opportunity, and things change very quickly. You can't predict any race out more than 2 years, right? It's like...
Well, when you're ready to announce, we'll have to have you back.
I would love that. You'll be two of the first to know if that does happen.
Are you willing to tilt at windmills with the GOP hold on the state institutions and lawmaking in a red state? Takes a lot of gumption.
It would take a lot, and that is a question. It's been interesting to me to watch the patterns. What are your thoughts on the migration patterns and the voter registration patterns that have happened since the pandemic? Do you guys have any thoughts on?
Well, as I've said for many years, the Democratic Party in Florida has all but disappeared. And they're starting to do this. They need to concentrate on building back up.
Yep.
And they need to concentrate on local races and build from there. The odds of them winning the governor's race this year are not high.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
That's diplomatic.
And the party's been suffering since Jeb Bush.
But you also talk about, and you're emblematic of that, and really on both sides of the aisle, this is true, engaging young people to get involved in the process. You're a perfect example of that, but you talk about that all the time.
Sure, yeah.
On camera and off with me.
Yeah, and you need to get rid of these old baby boomers and stuff, get them out of the way. But
it's harder than you think.
We're gonna be around for a while. Sorry.
I don't like the way she said
you
that.
guys are great.
There's a trap door under us.
I'm waiting for the button.
Goodbye.
It's really, you guys are great, but there is something in the party, in the Democratic Party, of welcoming and opening arms to the new generation. Mm-hmm. And I've confronted right with it, so I get it, even when you come forward with ideas, and it's hard to change, right? And when you look at our national leadership, you see there's already rubs at national leadership in Congress and in Senate over who's going to be next and when do you turn over the reins. So slowly but surely we keep working.
We appreciate you being our guest, Alexandria
It's such a
Ayala,
pleasure. Thank
CEO
you.
of the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County, and
future governor.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. Exclusive.
Thanks for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.